People buying machines think that that's what's going to make them money. I just don't get it. So anyway, it's the lean, mean machine, and again, I had 5 therapies, seeing 350 patient visits a week, 2 associate doctors, just with 5 therapies. It cost under, there's a chiropractic adjustment for the inflammation phase. I did the chiropractic adjustment, and we did muscle stim in the office. They did cold pack at home. For the repair phase, we did the chiropractic adjustment. And then after day 4, we would start intersegmental traction for the passive motion within the motor units. But I don't even do tables anymore just because of the space they take. I don't recommend, when we open offices now, I do not even recommend therapy tables at all, just because of the space to take and the cost. You buy the Heritage table we used to buy was $600. I looked, it's $1,000 now. And you need multiple units. Like, you need at least 3 tables if you want to see 120 visits a week with nobody. I'm talking about with nobody waiting. You need at least 4 tables to see 150 visits a week. And if you want to see over 200 visits a week, you need 6. That's with nobody waiting. And so we, even when we put them on passive therapy in the initial inflammatory beginning of the repair phase, it was simultaneous. At least we didn't do one and then the other, where we extended out the visit. We put them on the roller table and stem simultaneously. And then we did PNF, reciprocal inhibition, that was modified. And remember, when you do a modified treatment, and I say this all the time, it seems like everybody I talk to forgets this or doesn't remember it or doesn't know it. When you do a modified rehabilitation code, remember, the requirement is for the full payment, it's 15 minutes. For the modified payment, it's 8 minutes. Well, the 8 minutes represents the total care, the total interaction of that patient. It does not represent 8 minutes of 100% therapy. That's not what 15 minutes represents either. So remember, it represents your interaction with the patient, collecting data at the beginning of the patient, meaning you got to say, hi, hey, how's your day going? On a scale of 1 to 10, where are you at today? You got to collect the basic information. Then number 2, you got to do an E&M. You got to have 2 E&M evaluations. And we always like to do palpation, and we actually do 3. Because and we like to do the ones that are the highest probability of being relative. That's what we'll do. Highest probability of being positive, relative and positive. So that's fixation test, overpressure range of motion within a motor unit. It's not joint motion, it's not active range of motion, and it's not the whole spine full range of motion. You're evaluating a motor unit when you check fixations, and you're checking overpressure fixation. That's what, and then you quantify it, 0, 1, 2, 3. So you got the fixation and then tenderness. You'll hardly ever not find tenderness with a fixation. Almost every time you find a fixation, you'll find tenderness. And obviously that's not normal. And then you quantify it and grade it too. I use the functional capacity scale with that. 0, 1, 2, 3. And then intrinsic muscle spasms. A lot of times it won't even be regional. It could be regional. A lot of times it's more local. And then we'll just identify that, whether it's unilateral, bilateral, the region, cervical region, and then what plane of motion. Usually in the neck, it's extensors. So it might be, and then quantify it. And you can quantify it as mild, moderate, or severe. So that would be listed as mild, moderate, or severe. Cervical extensors, muscle spasms, moderate. So that's how that would be. That's how that would have been quantified. So that takes about 7 to 15 seconds to get those 2 E&Ms. Remember, you need those 2 E&Ms if you're doing third-party billing. That's basic Medicare. That's basically law. Remember, if they check your notes and you don't have them, they can ask for their money back, and they will get it. They'll stop paying you first, And then if you don't pay them and you don't use enough of their services for them to get their money back, then they'll just come out and sue you and get it back. That's what they'll do. And if it's large enough, they call it fraud. That's how that works. And I see that a lot. I see a lot of doctors with no soap notes, no E&M on a soap note. And of course, the subjective is really easy, and the analysis is the diagnosis that stays the same, and the plan stays the same until the re-exams. So that's real easy and quick. So that was, and then TheraBands. If the person was doing rehab, then all we did was TheraBands, and it wasn't about becoming Arnold Schwarzenegger. It was just resistance, and the TheraBands are so easy, and all we do, and they're cheap. I mean, you can even if you don't buy those units that cost, there's units out there that cost $500, that's still pretty cheap. But you can buy the individual bars that go on the wall with the straps that go in there and the TheraBands. You can buy that one TheraBand station for maybe $100, $150 between the bar that goes on the wall, the hook, and the TheraBand. 6 stations, $600. See? And the TENS units we use now are for muscle stim. We use TENS units with the patient sitting in the chair. So we don't do any of these terribles. So now we're just talking about the TENS unit, the TheraBands, and we'll do the wobble board and some PNF and chiropractic adjustment, and that fills all 3 phases of healing. You're affecting all 3 tissues, and then they use a nice pack at home. So it's a very cheap for under $5,000. I always say we open a brand new office with all equipment for under $7,000. And includes one computer, bookshelf, staff of chairs, tables, posters, one adjusting table, all that stuff. It's about $7,000, no more than $8,000 for all new, no monthly payments. And it's one hell of an efficient machine. Matter of fact, the setup I just said, you don't even need a therapist in the back for the most part. After you train them on the TheraBands, it takes about 3 stations, 3 times to do TheraBand. Just so you don't know, if you're not familiar with the TheraBand, it's real easy. All you would do is have them just set them up the motion that you're looking to work on, flexion. Or you're always going to definitely work on the plane of the injury. So if it was a flexion extension, that's the bare minimum that you would work on. The plane of the injury and the opposing muscle group. That'd be the bare minimum. So you don't have to work out their shoulders and their pecs and their gluteus and their soleus and their plan. You don't do all that. And it was just that simple. We just did neck and back. That's it. We didn't screw with elbow, shoulder, and all that other stuff. And all you do, and again, it's not about lifting weights and becoming Arnold Schwarzenegger, because patients aren't going to like that anyway. They don't want to do that shit. One last comment, we'll get going on that exam, is I had so what happens is how easy it is to train is the first time they just start at the lowest weight. We'll do 3 repetitions of 10. And we'll just start them on those lowest weight where they can do 10, 10, 10 until if they can do 10, 10, 10, then we move them up. So we're trying to find the weight to start with, the resistance, not weight. And so we may go, let me get that up there. We may go, so this is how easy it is. We may just do the flexors and extensors of that planar of injury. Okay. And then all we'll do is we'll set it up the first time. We'll have them, tell them where to stand, placement, weights, or the TheraBands, the handles, positioning, all that. And we'll tell them, now remember this, I'm going to have you do it the next time. Okay. And because after 3 times, we don't want to be having to sit there dealing with it. We're going to get them to do it on their own. And then we just monitor it from afar. So this is how easy it is. And then we'll first find the weight, the resistance where they can't do 10, 10, 10. So maybe they could do 10, rest, and then do 10, and then maybe they can only do 5. That's my starting point. All right, I want to leave them there until they can do 10, 10, 10. So that's their treatment schedule. When they can do 10, 10, 10, I'm going to bring them up 5 pounds of resistance. And you want to go real slow, sometimes not even 10 pounds of resistance. That's why I like, 5-pound increments. It's way slower and easier because, this is not supposed to be a workout at the gym, sweating your butt off type thing. And then I'll have them do it again. So I'll raise it up and then they can't do all 10, 10, 10. Maybe they could do the first 10 and the second 10, but they can only do 1 or 2 of the third 10. There you go. Now they're just going to stay there for a couple weeks until they hit 10, 10, 10. Now, as soon as they hit 10, 10, 10, I'm going to do it again. And then I'm going to do that until they plateau in re-2 exams. That's it. That's the therapy I'm going to do. That's how simple it is. They've plateaued. So we got some nice resistance in there with the injured area and it's affecting the collagen. Okay. So the first time that I'll tell them, I'll point it out, let me show you how to do this. I'm going to have you do this the next time you come in. Hold it here, strap it here. This is how you hook it, unhook it. Here's the weight differences with the colors, blah, blah, blah. The second time they come in, I'm going to watch them as they do it. So I'm going to instruct them, say, let me have you set yourself up. And I'm going to have them do it. And they typically won't get it done real well. But I want to let them do it as much as possible. And then I'll clean it up to make sure they're holding it right, positioning it right, and all that stuff. Okay. Third time they come in, they usually got it. Okay, let me hook yourself up and see how you're doing it. They usually got it. Now, once they do it on the third time, that's it. When they come in on the next visits, they're on their own. Now I'm just monitoring them from afar. All right, Joe, you can go ahead and start. We'll be checking here shortly. You can go ahead and get started with the TheraBands, okay? And then they're also going to be paying attention to the documentation, 10, 10, 10. So that's how real easy it is. And it's not difficult to the patient. One last thing I just mentioned, and we'll get going here with this.